It's a celebratory episode of Carving Up Live on a Tuesday. Tons to get into right here on primetime, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, to celebrate the 6-year anniversary of this very show, which began October 21st, 2019. Can't believe 6 years have gone by. We've obviously got a ton to talk about on this special episode. Gonna get into last night's game, the Detroit Lions beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I actually think at this point, Dan Campbell, weirdly, is an underrated coach. I'll talk about that. Toronto Blue Jays, an exhilarating Game 7 win over the Seattle Mariners last night. Talk about if they have a chance to beat the Dodgers in the World Series. Also get into the Houston Texans losing to the Seahawks last night. Houston is starting to remind me of the worst qualities of my Pittsburgh Steelers. I'll explain those later in the show. And did you think we'd be doing a celebratory episode of Carving It Up without carving up the context? We're obviously doing that. A new Ringer article came out that was supposed to paint LeBron James in a bad light. Turns out it actually kind of unintentionally painted Russell Westbrook in a bad light, and I'm not surprised at all. I'll get into the context surrounding that. My MVP ladder, my top 10 for MVP, talking about my NBA predictions, who wins the championship, who wins MVP, all of it. And throughout the show, we're going to be recapping some of my favorite moments from Carving It Up history. So we've got a ton to talk about on tonight's show. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. We're rolling, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to Carving It Up Live, a very special episode, a celebratory episode of the 6-year anniversary of the show. Of course, I am Bryson Carver, as always, a couple hours later than usual. This wasn't quite, as my good friend Patrick Brown would say, this was not quite the night edition show. That I'd save that more for like 9 Eastern beyond. When I was in Orlando, Florida, did a couple of 10 p.m. podcasts. That's what we call the night shows in lieu of obviously Steph Curry. Speaking of Steph Curry, as you heard me say in the open there, NBA predictions, the game's going on right now between the Oklahoma City Thunder, Houston Rockets. If you listen, might as well. How about this? I don't know if YouTube TV can do this, but do a split screen. Do the Houston Rockets, the Oklahoma City Thunder in one half, and then Carving It Up the other. Get the whole experience. Because we're going to be talking about basketball. We're going to be talking about football. We're going to be talking about baseball. Crazy Game 7 win for the Toronto Blue Jays last night over the Seattle Mariners. Talk about that. MVP ladder. This is something I've been teasing recently that I've kind of wanted to do. I've decided, you know what? Let's roll. Let's go and get into this as far as my top 10 list of guys for the MVP in the NFL so far, because every time we get into this discussion, we end up mentioning a bunch of names. This guy's MVP. This guy's MVP. Let's narrow it down. Let's put together a list, and I've got it for you in about 45 minutes on the show, carving up the context on a, honestly, kind of a funny article that the Ringer put out about Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, their tense relationships, to say the very least, with the Los Angeles Lakers. Talk about that and a number of things. But let's get to a team that, in Carving It Up history, has been very, very, very good to the show, the Detroit Lions. But first, it's only appropriate that we start Carving It Up 6-year anniversary celebration by celebrating a team that got a big-time bounce-back win on Monday Night Football, the Detroit Lions. And Dan Campbell, should I even ask, what did y'all do to the red-hot, at the time, number 1 seed, Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Kneecap.
Everybody was getting kneecaps last night in the Detroit Lions win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm just watching that game. And outside of a couple of big-time Jahmyr Gibbs runs, he obviously took 178 yards to the house in the first half. Lions offense had it rolling early. Jared Goff, during our show yesterday, threw the touchdown early to Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's like, oh, here we go, Lions. Oh, my gosh, it's going to be a big-time offensive shootout, which I think we all thought it would be. And then the offense stalled. Then there were some bad officiating errors. Again, as I said to some friends of mine last night watching the game, if that play in the fourth quarter where there's a double review, where there's a play of Tampa, but K-Dot stops short of the first down. Refs say that he got it. Dan Campbell challenges. They go back to the replay booth. They say, yes, he did got it. Yes, he did get it. And then they go back and they say, actually, no, he didn't get it. A double review. If that happened at Chiefs game, I think the internet might have exploded. But of course, who would expect consistency as it relates to fans' outrage with the officials and this conspiracy that the league is rigged for the Chiefs, which is obviously nonsense. That's not what this is about. What this is about is this. I almost feel like, funny, the NBA starts back tonight. And over time, when we've talked about Steph Curry, who obviously I'm a Golden State, you can see the Warriors hat right up here. I'm a diehard Golden State Warriors fan, and Steph Curry literally made me fall in love with the game of basketball. So, of course, he's my all-time favorite player. And I felt over time, when folks refer to him as almost like in passing as, oh yeah, greatest shooter of all time. Obviously, that's a huge compliment. No one's ever shot the basketball better than you, Steph. But when that was all they mentioned, I almost felt it was disrespectful. Because I'm like, yeah, obviously Steph's the GOAT shooter, but he does a bunch of things well. He's one of the greatest ball handlers ever, right? He's got an ability to finish at the rim. He is a knockdown free throw shooter at the line. He creates offense for his teammates because of his shooting ability. Like Steph's, got a well-rounded, he's got a good floater, good offensive game, well-rounded offensive game. And we just sort of minimize it to, oh, he shoots threes really well. I almost feel like we've done a similar disservice to Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions. So who does, I just played it right there. Dan Campbell and Oprah. You get a kneecap. You get a kneecap. Everybody gets a kneecap. Because Dan Campbell famously, early 2021, he gets hired by the Detroit Lions to be their next head coach. And in that press conference, he's like, we're going to bite your kneecaps. We're going to get up and smile. We're going to go at you, kind of sounded like a meathead. And I remember coming on the show, gosh, I think I was still in audio format. That's how long it was ago. This was a few weeks before I went to YouTube. And I'm like, oh, bless his heart. He's like, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but this is Detroit. It's historically been one of the worst franchises in football. At the time, they had one playoff win in the Super Bowl era that Barry Sanders got them in the early 90s. I think it was 1991, 38-6, if I remember correctly, against the Dallas Cowboys. All of those things, just a disastrous organization. Wasted Barry Sanders' prime and Calvin Johnson's prime and Matthew Stafford's prime. Bless his heart. This is not going to work. Could not have been more wrong. I feel like we almost minimize Dan Campbell too. Oh man, he's a rah-rah coach. He gets those guys ready to go and they play hard for Dan Campbell. All of which is true. Just like saying Steph Curry's the greatest shooter ever. Very true. But there's something, man, about first impressions. There's the old cliche, never get a second chance to make a first impression. And it applies to a lot of situations. And I feel like with Dan Campbell, that's the lasting image. He's rah-rah, bite kneecaps, and the Lions win. Therefore, that's what he does, right? Motivates the team. We're going to play a Dan Campbell clip from the locker room after the game. Great motivator, and that's his value. Folks, it goes way beyond that. Listen, I believe that the Lions, I picked them to go to the NFC Championship game before the start of the season. This is the third year in a row that I've done that. They came through for me in 2023. Appreciate that on the part of the Detroit Lions. But there was a lot of, 15-2, 1 seed, bouncing their first playoff game by the 6 seed Washington Commanders. And the defense isn't that good. Even when they were healthy, they're not that good. And holy crap, they had the best tandem of coordinators in the league. Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, and both are at the building. What are the Lions going to do? They're talented. They still got talent on offense with Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, Jared Goff. Good offensive line. But then they have some retirements in the offensive line. Frank Ragnow. They lose some pieces. And the Lions will be good, but they won't be anything special. They won't be like a Super Bowl contender. And it's a new offensive coordinator, John Morton, who's done a good job. And it's a new defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, guy by the name of Kelvin Shepard. He's done an excellent job. Who sets the culture? Who hires those guys to your staff? See, the thing is, coordinators, if you do a good enough job, if you're an Andy Reid, if you are a Sean McVay, a Kyle Shanahan, guys with, Andy Reid's got a gigantic coaching tree, but the guys like Shanahan and McVay have growing coaching trees. Eventually, those guys are going to go off and be successful. It's the brain drain sort of effect, right? But the truly great ones sustain success, almost agnostic who the coordinator is. That's just the reality of it, and that's what Dan Campbell is. I think it is time we acknowledge. I know as fans, fans, and certainly the media does this, the intellectual minds, that's the best coaches. And by the way, it's true in a lot of cases. Andy Reid's the best coach in football. Brilliant. Kyle Shanahan, I think, is the coach of the year thus far. Same thing. You think about guys like Kevin O'Connell, very cerebral, former quarterback. But a guy like Sean McVay, who I think is the second best coach in football to Andy Reid, he's like a perfect mix of the two. Kind of a young guru, but can also set a culture and motivate his guys. Set a certain standard in that locker room, in that Rams locker room, to have his guys ready to go. And that's Dan Campbell in Detroit. Not the offensive guru necessarily that Sean McVay is, but folks, I don't know if there's any better example of this, and we won't name names because there's too many, But we see it in politics. I swear to God, anytime I see an interview with a politician, back-to-back interviews, I don't know what they stand for, what their core principles and beliefs are by the end of the interview. You can count on your hand the number of people. It's like, well, they're consistent. Know what they're going to say. Agree or disagree. They bring a raw authenticity to the table. With Dan Campbell, any NFL fan that's watched any football over this is now 5 seasons for Dan Campbell in Detroit. What do you know? They play their butts off, play to the whistle. They go for it on fourth down every chance they get. They use analytics, but there's also a bit of a macho football guy-ish thing to it. They love each other. They play hard for Dan Campbell. He's a great interview. They want to hit you in the mouth. They want to run the football. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They've even got nicknames Sonic and Knuckles. And the defense isn't great, but they're a bend but don't break defense. They held a Tampa Bay offense that was rolling to this point to 9 points. Held Baker Mayfield, at the time, the front runner for MVP in a lot of people's eyes, to barely over 50% completion percentage. Not that we shouldn't take credit away from Kelvin Shepard. Not that we shouldn't take credit away from John Morton. But that guy, that big, jacked, works out with the players, I'm sure, biting kneecaps, all of it, rah-rah macho man. He's so much more than that. That's important, and that is a part of his character, of his identity as a Detroit Lions head coach. Goes well beyond that in terms of his value to this franchise. And so that last night, the Lions did not, their defense was good. The Lions offense did not play well, and that shocked me because I don't think Tampa Bay's defense is that good. Jared Goff wasn't great. There was an interception at the end of the first half, and it's like, outside a couple of Jahmyr Gibbs runs, they're not really getting it going. I think they were held to, if I'm not mistaken, they were only held to 10 points in the second half, like just didn't really have it going. But the defense stepped up. They made the clutch plays when they have to. Every time Tampa looks like they were clawing back in it, Detroit would make a play, both sides of the ball. Special teams is good. Well-coached team, doesn't commit a lot of penalties. That's Dan Campbell. You cannot mention the 5 best coaches in the league and his name not be included. When you consider, and I get it, also some credit should go to Brad Holmes, general manager of his team. Where'd he come from? Of course, the Los Angeles Rams, one of the premier run organizations in the league. His drafting has been almost second to none since he got to Detroit. We've done segments on the show in the years past. If you look at forget their first-round picks, the Aiden Hutchinsons, the Jahmyr Gibbs of the world. Remember when people didn't think they should have drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, which I thought at the time was idiotic. I saw this kid at Alabama. He's special, and he's showing you that week after week. But some of these mid-round picks, these Amon-Ra St. Browns, these Derek Barnes, these guys who have stepped up and been a big-time contributors on both sides of the ball for Detroit, finding value. Brad Holmes deserves a lot of credit. But what Dan Campbell inherited, I think we forget how much of a joke. They even mentioned on the broadcast last night, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, who obviously do a fantastic job on Monday Night Football. I think it was Troy that said, we were here talking about him and Joe Buck back when they were at Fox. We were here for a Thanksgiving game, Dan Campbell's first year, and this place was like a morgue. It was silent. It was a ghost town, right? It wasn't like COVID where it was empty stadiums. The stadium was full. Wasn't no energy in the building. Now you can feel it through your television screen or through your phone or however you're watching the game from Ford Field. You can feel the energy from those fans. Dan Campbell's built that. He is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the 5 best coaches in football, and here was his team after the game in the locker room celebrating their win over Tampa Bay.
Dude, how about the defense? Listen, 9 points allowed, 4 of 16 on third down, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, 252 yards allowed, man. That's outstanding. Listen, we did what we had to do. There's things we got to clean up, but I tell you what, defense, you play like that, you win every game. That's the bottom line. That's outstanding. That's the way to cut it loose, just like we talked about, guys.
Never played football in my life. I would get up out of this. If Dan Campbell walked through that door into the studio and said, "Get your ass up and get out there and play football." Yes, sir. Yes, coach. He just there's certain qualities about people, about coaches. I'm sure Dan Campbell gets in his players, during practice, but they know he freaking loves them. This guy, we've seen him cry at press conferences over how much he loves his players. All the qualities that make a special football coach, Dan Campbell's got it. No question about it. As for Tampa Bay quickly, so listen, it's not the end of the world for the Bucs. The good news is, their upcoming schedule is pretty tough. They got some good opponents in there. But the last month and a half, last 6 weeks or so of their season, it's a lot of bad divisional teams. There's a Carolina mix there, but Tampa's going to be fine the rest of the way. The question is, can they sustain these injuries? I mean, Mike Evans, and boy, does this not suck? And this is, man, it's the ultimate saying, Father Time is undefeated. Mike Evans comes back from injury. Okay, here we go. We got Mike Evans back. We got Buka back. Here comes the Tampa Bay offense, and Mike Evans breaks his collarbone and gets concussed in the first half. So that all but assuredly means is that the Bucs announced that he's going to be out most of the rest of the regular season. Should be back by the playoffs, but doesn't look like he's going to play anytime soon. That then therefore means the end of one of the most incredible streaks we have currently going in the NFL. Mike Evans, 11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. That is tied with the greatest receiver ever, Jerry Rice, for the most to start a season in NFL history. I don't know if it's most to start a season or just most consecutively to begin with. So it's a bummer that it's come to an end. It comes to an end not on Mike Evans' terms. That's really a bummer, but hopefully they can get him back sooner rather than later. The good news about Tampa is they're really deep at receiver. Like they've got Ibuka. Hopefully they get Chris Godwin back, tight end, but they got Kate Otten. The kid Tez Johnson made another play yesterday. He was good against San Francisco, made a big time catch. Like I like what he brings to the table. They'll get Bucky Irvin back. They've got Rashard Smith, I believe is his name. They're going to be fine. So end of the day for Tampa, listen, they had a bad game. Baker was inaccurate. Baker was throwing a lot of what we call hospital balls, like just not putting his receivers in a good position to make a play without getting absolutely blasted by a Detroit Lions safety. And so Baker had a bad game. It happens. Like I'm not going to worry too much about it. We'll show you Baker's numbers. Do we have that graphic? I think we have that graphic. Maybe we don't. Here it is. Baker Mayfield's stats yesterday against the Detroit Lions. A touchdown, a pick. The touchdown, by the way, was all Tez Johnson, but 56% completion. That's not going to work. 228 pass yards, a 66 rating, which isn't good. QBR 0 to 123, which is not good at all. And he was 0 for 8 on 20-plus yard throws. And most of them weren't particularly close. It was overthrows. It was like the guy was open, but as I often say when I criticize, and I love Trevor Lawrence, and I believe in Trevor Lawrence, but when I often criticize him, it's for dude, in college football, you throw to the open receiver. In the NFL, guys aren't open enough to be the quote-unquote open receiver on a consistent basis. You mostly have to throw them open. Sometimes the coaches scheme them open. A lot of times the quarterback, you got to throw them open. And Baker kind of struggled with that last night. He struggled with turnovers. So tough loss for the Bucs. They'll be fine. I know Carolina's only a game back of them in the NFC South. Look at that. But Bryce is hurt and Andy Dalton's in. Panthers aren't going to run down Tampa Bay for that NFC South. They should cruise to the AFC South or NFC South title rather for the 5th consecutive season, get to the playoffs for the 6th consecutive season. Wouldn't worry too much about Tampa. This was more about Detroit just winning a really, really, really ugly game. And the last thing I'll say too is, because I do know a Lions fan, good friend of mine, they'll be appearing on the show pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. But this person, as well as multiple other people in the Detroit Lions fan base, which, by the way, has been unbelievably supportive of this show, so shout out to all Lions fans out there. But over the last few days, man, this game, the game against the Chiefs was rigged against us, and the Jared Goff touchdown should have blah, 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 blah. They can't review that, and it was rigged. Again, add that to the list of, a team's lost some Chiefs, therefore it's got to be rigged, right? Because a team can't possibly win that much. And I think it's fair to say that last night, the way that thing played itself out, probably we're even on that, because that was a one-sided officiating game. This is not again, officials in the NFL haven't been great, but as we all know, it's how it goes. In prime time, bad officiating errors. I've said this a million freaking times. Bad officiating is just highlighted during prime time. People have talked about, oh man, did you see that Broncos comeback over the Giants? Yes, I did see it. It was unbelievable. You can tell not a lot of people saw it. You know how I know that? Because the Giants, when they scored with under a minute left, part of the reason they got down to the goal line to take the lead, a terrible pass interference call down the right sideline. A terrible pass interference call. Great defense, and they threw the flag. Maybe refs in the league, maybe A, the NFL's hard to officiate, and or B, the refs screw up in big spots virtually every single close game. I mean, I even just quickly, and then we'll move on to the Toronto Blue Jays, but I even just wrote it down. Do we have it here? I should have it on my, here we go. Yeah, just this week. There was a roughing the passer call on Dak, and I love Dak, but it was not roughing the passer. Dak's helmet just so happened to kind of fall off because he was at a weird angle. It was not roughing the passer, but they called it. There was a T.J. Hawkinson touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles that should have been a touchdown. They called it incomplete. T.J. Hawkinson after the game, man, I don't know what a catch is anymore. That used to be kind of a problem in the NFL about a decade ago. That was a bad missed call. Again, I mentioned the PI in the Broncos, the Lions play again. I've never seen that where a team challenges a play. The refs come out and say, all right, play stands as called. It's like, okay, team lose the challenge. And then ref comes back out. Actually, after a second review, the play on the ruling on the field is reversed. It's like, what the heck? I thought you just reviewed it. What second review? Again, there was a first half interception by Detroit that was not a pick. And by the way, officials, I wrote this down, what I've seen all season long. They are letting holding go more than ever. I mean, that's so this idea that all the Chiefs get all the calls and that it's one-sided. The Chiefs play on more nationally televised games. They're outside the Cowboys, the most watched team in the NFL. I would argue they might even be more watched than the Cowboys, just in terms of the overall breadth of the season, if you include the playoffs. So everything, every great thing or bad thing gets emphasized. Therefore, awful officiating errors get emphasized. That doesn't mean that's the reason the Chiefs have a dynasty. I hate to tell you. They used to say that about the Patriots. They used to say that about the Warriors. I've always said this. If you need an officiating call to go your way in order to win a game, that's on you. Don't put it in their hands. It's pretty simple. All right, let's move on to Major League Baseball. Boy, Game 7, did that not deliver last night? So I got to say, I was really pulling hard for the Seattle Mariners. A, because I picked them coming into the playoffs to win the American League, to win the pennant, go to the World Series, which the second reason I was pulling for them is what I was going to say is they've never gone to a World Series. I think Joe Davis said last night they're the only team in all of baseball to have never gone to a World Series, and just a fan base that's been through a lot of heartbreak. They've never been an opportunity where their teams had a chance to clinch the AL pennant. Had two opportunities, albeit on the road in Toronto, weren't able to get the job done. So they lose last night 4-3 to the Toronto Blue Jays on a George Springer go-ahead 3-run shot to give the Toronto Blue Jays a lead that they would not relinquish. I really wish we could have gotten a Cal Raleigh at bat in the ninth inning. Julio Rodriguez, who was not kind of hot mic necessarily, but you could hear one of the Mariners players being interviewed. You could hear Julio Rodriguez in the back just let out this scream of just frustration because he struck out. He swung on a pitch that would have been ball 4 and put him on base, given to me the MVP of the American League, Cal Raleigh, an opportunity to do something regardless. So the shocking part about Seattle losing isn't that they lost because Toronto's an excellent baseball team, is the fact that Seattle's starting rotation is really, along with Cal Raleigh, obviously, the main reason why I picked them to win the American League. It's the main reason a lot of people picked them to go to the World Series. And the last few games, ever since they went up 2-0 on Toronto, winning both games in Canada, it's like, oh my gosh, here we go. Seattle's rotation fell apart. They were atrocious in the last 5 games. And so, not necessarily yet last night, obviously in Game 7, bullpen made an error there, but it's just it's a prime example of, in the Major League Baseball postseason, it's usually more times than not the hottest team that gets to the postseason, not always the best, and the pitching has to be at an A+ level, at worst an A- level. And in the case of the Mariners, it was at a D+ at best level, at least the starting rotation was. For Toronto, listen, I'm still shocked that Seattle pitched to George Springer in that spot when they had a base open. Like, give yourself an opportunity to, I was talking to a Blue Jays fan today at school, and he was like, yeah, I was shocked. I was so glad that they let George Springer bat even before he had a home run, which he kind of has a history of doing back with the Houston Astros. Again, cheater, correct, yes. All the 2017 Astros are cheaters, no question about it. That's the only title that I believe in the modern era there is an asterisk next to, because they literally use methods other than the rules of the game to win a title, regardless. But he has a history of doing this. He has a history of, some of those big games, again, albeit probably knew the pitch was coming, but still, he has the confidence, he has the experience in those spots to come up big, to hit one out of the ballpark, to give a team a lead or tie the game or keep them in it, regardless of what the situation is. I'm shocked that they didn't let the bat go into a player not quite of George Springer's caliber to potentially force a double play, to hopefully get out of that inning, and then you're up 3-1 going into the 8th inning. Now you're in good shape moving forward. But Toronto's got home field advantage. against the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is critical. That's although it wasn't that critical for Milwaukee because they lost both games. So did Philly, by the way. So I guess the Dodgers have yet to lose a road game this year in the postseason. But Toronto, as we saw, one of the most iconic playoff moments in recent memory, the Jose Bautista bat flip, 7th inning, 3-run shot against Texas. That's about as loud as you'll hear any baseball stadium in your life. Last night, that place, Rogers Center, was rocking. So, listen, there are certain ballparks that have a legit, true home field advantage in the postseason, and Toronto is absolutely one of them. Seattle is that. The Red Sox at Fenway is that. You think about, even the Dodgers to a degree, there's like this aura about playing in Dodger Stadium. The Houston Astros, when they were making their runs, Houston got really loud. And so that's a big time advantage for Toronto. The question is, though, boy, you are going against an absolute juggernaut. Forget in the Dodgers lineup. We know about Ohtani and Freeman and Mookie and Teoscar. We know about those guys. Max Muncy. Think about the Dodgers rotation. Do we trust the bullpen? I'm still not quite there yet, although they have been good in the postseason, but they were great in the NLCS against Milwaukee. You're going to have to face a rotation, by the way, on a week's rest that features Blake Snell, that features Yamamoto, Glasnow, and Ohtani. That's a different monster. That is a team, that is a rotation that's got World Series experience, that has been there and done that has been to the big stage. This isn't going to faze them. George Springer, John Smoltz said it during the broadcast last night. George Springer is the only Toronto Blue Jay, a position player, to have gone to the World Series. So guys like Vlad Guerrero on down, first rodeo, man. This is a brand new set of circumstances. You are facing the defending champions. You're facing a team that is looking to go back-to-back, which no baseball team has done in the 21st century. They're the first team since the Phillies in 08 and 09 to go to back-to-back World Series at all. Phillies won in 08, lost in 09 to the Yankees. When you're facing a team like that, that is 4 wins away from cementing themselves as the dynasty, and we haven't had that in decades in Major League Baseball, there's a challenge that goes beyond the playing field. There's an aura, there is a vibe that you have to overcome over the Los Angeles Dodgers, a team full of champions, both with LA and, to my chagrin, away from LA as well, because Mookie won a title in with my beloved Boston Red Sox before we stupidly traded him. I still haven't forgiven the front office for that. But regardless, that's a different conversation for a different show. Freddie Freeman's won a World Series with Atlanta, World Series MVP last year. By the way, Teoscar Hernandez is a former Blue Jay, so there's like a whole kind of motivation for him. I'm telling you, this is a Dodgers team that is cooking in fish grease right now, and a team that has gotten better each and every round against a better playoff opponent each and every round. Wildcard series, Cincinnati, great story. Kudos to them for getting in the playoffs. They're building something over there. Love Ellie De La Cruz. That was over quickly, as we all knew it would. Second round, they play Philadelphia. Feels like most people picked the Phillies to win, and the Dodgers were fantastic in that series, as was, by the way, their bullpen, which stepped up in big moments. NLCS, best team in baseball, best record in baseball, at least, in the Milwaukee Brewers, swept them. Milwaukee, through the first 3 games, they didn't have 10 hits. Unbelievable stuff. So a week's rest. Toronto's come off this highly emotional, come from behind, down 2-0, and then down 3-2 to the Seattle Mariners. That home field advantage in those first 2 games are going to be critical. Toronto has to split the first 2 games. They've got to get at least one. Because do I think they can get one at Dodger Stadium? Sure they can. Philly's got one at Dodger Stadium. It's doable for a team as talented as Toronto. But man, if they go down 2-0, if the Dodgers with Snell and then Yamamoto nab the first 2, you can kiss this World Series goodbye. It's going to be a quick one. It's going to be sweep or gentleman's sweep, whatever the case may be. But the kudos to Toronto, big-time emotional win last night, and kudos to George Springer. I'm just still shocked that Seattle pitched to him. Really, really shocked, and I wish we would have gotten a Cal Raleigh at bat in the ninth. Would have loved to have seen this year, the 2025 best player in the American League, get an opportunity to win that baseball game. All right, we will come back after the break. But before we go to break, or I guess as we go to break, again, going to play different moments from Carving It Up history, different moments to celebrate 6 years of the show. I want to get the first one out of the way quickly, because anytime I hear it, I just, again, I cringe a little bit, because it was a long time ago, and let's just play the clip. It's the first words that I ever spoke in the history of the show on this day, October 21st, 2019. Here you go. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Carving It Up. I am Bryson Carver, and there's so much to talk about in the world of sports today. Yeah, that was, listen, 6 years ago, welcome back to Carving It Up, a special episode celebrating the 6th-year anniversary of the show and obviously recapping what has been just a crazy last 24 hours of sports. Listen, October ends in 10 days, or I guess it's the 21st, so 11 days. This is truly, always has been and always will be the best month in sports. Like we got multiple football topics, which I'll get into in just a second. I'll talk about Texans and Seahawks in just a moment. We got a baseball topic, Game 7 of the ALCS. Doesn't get better than that. Bill Russell said it best. The best two words in sports are Game 7. We've got some basketball stuff, a wild story that you're not going to believe. Going to talk about it on Carving Up the Context, because I got to do Carving Up the Context, on a 6-year anniversary show, about a Russell Westbrook and LeBron James article from when they were teammates with the Los Angeles Lakers. It's wild stuff, and you're definitely going to hear the insights with that as far as what the Ringer said, and then kind of my take on it and the context behind all of it and how I interpreted it. MVP ladder, NBA predictions. By the way, NBA is going on right now. The season tipped off. Oklahoma City and the Houston Rockets, defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder. And just look, I haven't watched a dribble of this game yet because I've been doing the show, obviously. But look at the box score right now, and Chet Holmgren is on fire. 7 for 8 from the field is Chet Holmgren. He's got 18 points in this game. Does he have any blocks in this one? He's got a block in this game. So good stuff. And obviously, kind of like a sidebar storyline is Kevin Durant, in one of his many returns to Oklahoma City, obviously since leaving the Thunder a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away in 2016. And looks like he's 3 for 8 thus far with 8 points. But this is got to be tough for KD, right? Played 9 years with the franchise, came so close to winning a title, went to a finals in 2012, went to multiple other conference finals in 2011, 14, and 16. And then he's there for the Oklahoma City Thunder, raising the banner, celebrating a championship. He just wasn't on the Thunder. So that's going to be tough for him. But I think KD's going to ball out. And I think Houston not having Fred VanVleet to me is absolutely positively devastating. And I think it's going to hurt them in the long run because of the veteran presence, and he's a good decision maker, good point guard, really good 3-point shooter, championship experience. So him getting hurt this offseason, I'm pretty sure it was an ACL, was devastating for this team. Okay, let's talk about the second game that maybe not a lot of people on the East Coast saw last night between the Houston Texans and the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle won this game 27-19. The game was, I can't even say that the game wasn't as close as the score would indicate, just because the Texans got a late touchdown to make it a 1-score game. That's not the story. Because Seattle wasn't even that good last night. Every single Seattle touchdown drive in this game came from either pass or right up near midfield. So essentially, every time they scored, they were in phenomenal field position. When they didn't, they were probably backed up. This Houston Texans team is weird, and it's starting to remind me of the worst qualities of my Pittsburgh Steelers. Is that, the Steelers are this well-run, again, Steelers have been better run than the Texans, obviously, overall. But, okay, well-run franchise, quarterback that people like him. Again, Aaron's not in his prime anymore. People like Aaron. People like C.J. Stroud. The offensive line isn't very good. Houston's is absolutely worse than Pittsburgh's. It is god-awful. They got some good receivers, but their defense, holy moly, their defense is awesome. Houston Texans Day, #1 defense in football. Is that a surprise to any of us? Of course not. When you got Derek Stingley and you got guys like Will Anderson, who was great last night. You talk about guys like Henry To'o and just up and down the list. Danielle Hunter. They are loaded in their defense. And they have a defensive coach in DeMeco Ryans, a guy that we all think pretty good coach, right? We think Mike Tomlin can coach. And it feels as if for Houston, the good news is for Houston, they can make changes in future years, in future off seasons, that will not be breaking this sort of generational, weird, standard is the standard kind of mumbo jumbo-ness. The Texans have only been relevant. This is their third year of people actually paying attention to the Houston Texans. Or in the case of my buddy Ryan Flowers, shout out to Ryan of Clutch Sports Talk. He's been following the Texans for years. Outside of him, nobody's following the Texans before 2023. But they don't prioritize the O-line. Otherwise, they wouldn't have traded Laramie Tunsil. They feel like, okay, if we got one good receiver, that's all we need. Nico Collins, DK Metcalf, and the Steelers have multiple other examples of this with AB and George Pickens. And, quarterback can be fine. Now, for the record, I think he showed us this a couple of years ago. CJ Stroud, if you give him protection, darn good quarterback. Big time arm, moves, not like necessarily a running quarterback, so to speak. He's more of a pocket guy, but can move, can run, a little bit of a Michael Penix quality to him. But watching, and again, Seattle's got a great D-line. But watching him last night, watching him all season long, frankly, and at the end of last year, just having to work with limited receiving core. This year, the running game's worse because Joe Mixon's, been injured. And just running for his life with a bad offense, an atrocious offensive line, and guys, receivers missing games. And it's like Houston prioritizes the wrong things. What's it worth having the best defense in the NFL if the offense can't protect your franchise asset? If the offense can't give your franchise quarterback, second overall pick out of Ohio State 2023, CJ Stroud, the opportunity to be successful to the best of his ability. That is a failure on the part of the organization. The organization's fault. So, I just watched this and I'm like, oh my God, they remind me of the Steelers. Like, again, the difference, DeMeco Ryans isn't a quote machine. And that, by the way, that's a compliment. He isn't this guy that says a lot of stuff and there's not really much substance to it. Like the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Neither organization really values the offensive line that much. Like, they value receiver, they scout receiver very well. They don't really believe in depth at that position because the Steelers don't have depth. The Texans don't have depth. But they love defense. Defense wins championships. Of course, you've got to have a great defense to win, but it cannot be the best unit on your team. Otherwise, you're probably screwed. It's an offensive league. It's a quarterback's league. It's an offensive coach's league. And just watching that one last night, you say, well, what about Seattle? Seattle's got a defensive coach and Mike McDonald. Different story, because defensive coaches in the NFL, the only time that we've really, honestly, we've seen across the NFL, the only time defensive coaches can really be successful, can win a lot of games, can put their teams in position to be legitimate contenders, is if they have a smart offensive coordinator. Seattle's got Clint Kubiak. The Buffalo Bills have Joe Brady. The New England Patriots have Josh McDaniels, right? These smart offensive coordinators, good play designers, develop quarterbacks well, because if they don't, it looks like the New York Jets with Aaron Glenn. If they don't, at times, it's looked like prior to this year, the anemic offense that has been the Pittsburgh Steelers for the better part of the last half decade plus. With bad OCs, guys that Tomlin can control. Remember the Mac candidates? Oh, Lord, I'd love to forget it. I just watched Houston. They're valuing the wrong things. As for Seattle, I mean, and by the way, too, like, Houston forced 4 turnovers last night. 4 on Seattle. Couldn't get done. So it's just, they're valuing the wrong things. I didn't buy into Houston before the season. I was not of the mindset that they were going to win the AFC South for the third year in a row. I just didn't see it. The O-line defense is awesome. It is unbelievably good. Best in football, according to the numbers. And the personnel is excellent. DeMeco Ryans, great defensive coach. But even like the little details, even like the situational stuff. And I don't know, again, I'm going to be fair here. Based on DeMeco Ryans' reaction on the sideline, it seemed like he didn't want this player to do what he did. So I'm not necessarily going to blame D'Amico himself, but let me make sure I get the time and score right. So, well, I know the score was 27-19, which ends up being the final score. So Houston scores a touchdown with 2:04 left in the game. It's 2:04 left in the game. Houston has one timeout. So they're on the other side. Excuse me, they're on the plus side of the 2-minute warning. So they're going to get a guaranteed clock stop with that, and they've got a timeout. So if they can hold Seattle 2-3 down, okay, we can get the ball back with a little over a minute. Crazier things have happened. With the new kickoff rules, with the touchback coming out to the 35-yard line, if you just kick the ball out of bounds, the ball goes to the 40-yard line. It's a 5-yard difference. Who the heck cares? Like the position on the field doesn't mean a thing. You're just trying to get the ball back. And the Houston Texans, Ka'imi Fairbairn, the kicker for the Texans, instead of kicking it out of bounds, preserving the clock, ensuring that a return by Seattle wouldn't send the clock to the 2-minute warning and you basically lose a free timeout. I'm sure he was trying to kick it through the end zone, but didn't kick it far enough. Seahawks returner grabs it, returns it out, and there goes any chance you had of winning that game. It's the little details. It's that I could see Mike Tomlin doing that kind of thing with Chris Boswell. I could see a situation where instead of just playing this from a strategic standpoint, okay, kick it out of bounds. It's 5-yard difference. Who the heck cares? We're just trying to get the ball back. We saved clock. Nah, kick it through the end zone. Let's just get... Buddy, the rules have changed. Back in the day, 10 years ago, you probably try and kick it through the end zone because that'd be what, like a 15, 20-yard difference? That's a whole different ball game. 5, who the heck cares? It's the little stuff. It's the situational errors that have plagued the Houston Texans in a big way. And again, they value the wrong things based on last night. All right. This is wild. This article that came out today, and I was tempted to, because it's not too long, I was tempted to read the entire thing live on the show, but I feel like I think people that do that on podcasts, on TV shows, I've seen people do it on shows in years past. I feel like there's a bit of I'm telling you what matters, because if it's like this long like op-ed or something or whatever, it's like, okay, give me the meat of the story. I can read it on my own time and draw my own conclusions. Why are you trying to tell me what is in the article based on what's in the whole thing? Like, I think it's a waste of people's time. I think it's a bit preachy. So I'm not going to read the whole article to you guys live on air, but I encourage you to read it from The Ringer. We do a segment usually every Wednesday on the show, but in this case, special episode of Carving Up Live. And by the way, we will be back Wednesday, regularly scheduled programming to talk NBA, Bryce's best 10, predictions for the Thursday night game, Vikings, Chargers, all of it. But I couldn't miss an opportunity to do Carving Up the Context, which is quite simply one of my favorite segments that we've introduced on the show. So, as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, "Give me my theme music." On this week's edition, this is a wild one, of Carving Up the Context, a story by The Ringer. It was an excerpt from a new book that is coming out soon. It is from a book called A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers. And it's an excerpt from the book that was published in The Ringer today, I believe it was today, which is wild, wild stuff. Talk about the relationship between LeBron James and Russell Westbrook, which we knew was contentious. Westbrook's time in Los Angeles was extremely contentious. It was, I said it, hand to God, you can check the tape on this show. The second they made this move, I remember July 2021, I think it might have been draft day, because the draft was a little bit later that year because of COVID. I'm like, what are they doing? You got a good thing going on here. It's, you won a championship in 2020. Injuries hurt you last year, but you've got a good squad here. And you bring in more Russell Westbrook, and I don't have to explain that was a bad reason. Y'all saw it was a bad reason. Inefficient shooter, bad decision maker, can't play off ball, bad fit with LeBron. It was a disaster. Lakers won 33 games the first year, were under 500 the second year, traded his butt out of Los Angeles, made the conference finals. And it's not like the Lakers added any superstar player. Who they had, like D'Angelo Russell? It's not like they added, Luka like they added a couple of years later. So obviously addition by subtraction that we saw in the in midseason of 2023. That's not the story. The story is from The Ringer, Bill Simmons, network, talking about, and I don't know I don't know if they were attempting to try and portray LeBron in a bad light. It certainly seems that way. The way I read it, it sounded like it was actually Russ. By my mind's eye, that looks really, really bad in this piece. So the article starts, it talks about how at the end of games, there was a disconnect on who's the primary decision maker in the fourth quarter close games. Is it LeBron? Is it Westbrook? Like, who is it? Who makes these decisions? And when it was all said and done, there was an excerpt in the book that was posted in this article that I found a real indictment of Westbrook. And this is, we can show you the excerpt from the piece. It's kind of long, but just follow me through with me here. Westbrook knew LeBron's reputation. He'd seen all the examples of LeBron seemingly misrepresenting himself. There was a time LeBron claimed that The Godfather was his favorite movie, but then failed to recall a single line when asked during a press conference to name one. There was the time he carried the autobiography of Malcolm X into a media session, but stumbled when asked to name his biggest takeaway. There was a time during an interview when he claimed that the night that Kobe scored 81 points, he predicted beforehand that he'd go for 70, a clip so widely mocked, it became a popular meme. This, in Westbrook's view, was who LeBron was, and he was done putting up with it. That in and of itself is the meme of, by the way, when LeBron was, let's see, I think Kobe scored 81 in, that was 06, right? So LeBron would have been in year, I guess he'd been in year 3. He'd have been 21 years old, I think, 21, 22 years old. That's what you're holding against Bron as like this indictment of, oh, he's this fake. I mean, Jalen Ramsey was on The Shop with LeBron and kind of mocked him for it. And it was kind of like this, that's kind of funny. And Bron was able to kind of poke fun at himself for, like, yeah, of course, I didn't think Kobe was going for 70. Who could have seen that coming? He ends up going for 81. And there's the Malcolm X thing. Okay, first of all, who's to say LeBron didn't finish that book? And second of all, The Godfather. Was LeBron probably lying? Yeah, he's probably lying. If he can't recall a line from The Godfather, one of the most iconic movies, some people believe the greatest movie ever made, he probably didn't see The Godfather. So was it a lie? Yeah, it's a lie. But is that an indictment to say, man, Bron is he's just this phony? That's the examples you used? An internet meme? Forgetting, or not knowing a line in a movie? Really? That's not the meat of the article. The article is called, now this is a story all about Russ. Now that obviously sounds familiar because the following, how a visit from Will Smith and an Oscar-worthy fake smile turned Russell Westbrook against LeBron James for good. Basically, the way the story goes is that Will Smith, and this was, I think, 6 months after the infamous slap of Chris Rock during the Oscars. I talked about it in the show for a half hour the next day. We all remember that. 6 months after that, he visits the Lakers to kind of talk to them. I think it was during a Darvin Ham film session and all of it. And he comes in, and before Pelinka's about to go get Will Smith, LeBron, and this is according to the piece, seated in the middle row, stood up. This, I'm quoting the article, quote, "Y'all got this," he said. He stormed out a back door. "Bleep, man," Anthony Davis, said. He stood and followed LeBron out. Stunned, the rest of the players sat there looking at each other, unsure what to do. "We're like, yo, what the is going on?" one recalled. Westbrook rose next. "So we all leaving?" he asked. "Nah, Russ," said Patrick Beverley, a brash veteran point guard the Lakers had acquired over the summer. "We got to stay." Westbrook didn't understand. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Then two guys can do whatever they want," Beverley said. "They won a championship." As the two went back and forth, and by the way, we know Westbrook and Beverley, contentious relationship, to say the very least. As the two went back and forth, it became clear to the other players in the room what Westbrook was thinking. As a 9-time All-Star and former MVP and future Hall of Famer, why would there be a difference between him and them? Pelinka came back in. "We ready?" he asked. "We ain't ready," Beverley said. "We need 5 minutes." Pelinka left, and it talks about eventually, Will Smith came in there. And he was cracking jokes. When he came back, or right before Will Smith came back, LeBron and AD returned. And it talks about, and this is interesting, Will Smith opened it up for questions. This is from the article. "LeBron was first. He had a question," he said. Smith answered. Then LeBron had another question, and another one after that, and another one after that, and another after that. On and on he went, stretching what was supposed to be a 30-minute session into nearly an hour. The same guy who was trying to leave is now quoting back movie lines and going through the guy's whole life story, one attendee recalled thinking. Seated in the third row, picking at a bowl of fruit, Westbrook watched in disbelief, shaking his head and rolling his eyes every time LeBron spoke. I hate that fake blank, Westbrook said to a teammate afterward as the Lakers gathered for a team photo. I just can't do it. The next afternoon, and we'll show it to you, the Lakers posted the picture on social media. Can we put that up there right now? So this was in 2022. Will Smith, he's holding a jersey right there, meeting with the entire Lakers team. If you can't see Russell Westbrook, we'll zoom in for you. And ironically, LeBron's standing right behind him. There's Bron, flash the pearly whites, and Westbrook looks like there's literally, he would rather be literally anywhere else on planet Earth than where he was at in that particular moment. That's the story. What's the context? Reading this, it like kind of all crystallized it for me about Russ, who I want to say this in the front end. Again, don't know the man. Based on what I've read about the guy, things he's done in his personal life, things that he's done for his local community, the way his friends of his talk about him, I don't think Russ is a good person. I think Russ is an excellent person. I've told this story so many times on the show, partly because it applies to a place that I truly love with all my heart, Disney World, which I worked there earlier this year. Disney World was obviously the side of the bubble back in 2020. Russ was with the Rockets. When the Rockets got eliminated from the playoffs and the guys were packing their rooms, Westbrook, I forgot what the total amount of money was, but left like this huge tip for the person cleaning his hotel room. And I'm like, okay, Russ didn't have to get the glory for that. Russ didn't do this big. He didn't have somebody recording it. That always feels really inauthentic to me. Russ didn't do that. Russ has done some great stuff in his community. I think Russ, by all accounts, good husband, good father. I think Russ is a really, really good person. I mean that genuinely. Reading this article and certainly watching Russ's, most of his career, prime Westbrook and then post-prime Westbrook, he's always had this real innate flaw as a player, and I think it kind of extends to his personal life to a degree. Westbrook is one of those people that takes pretty much everything with the exact same amount of seriousness. You ever seen that one person and like they never smile? It's like the same. Just kind of going about their business, not like their expression doesn't change. There's not, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? They take themselves too seriously. They can't really crack a joke at themselves or laugh at themselves. They take everything with the utmost seriousness. By the way, certain situations we should take seriously, as we all know. But sometimes let your hair down, exhale, let the shoulders down, have a little fun. This story about Russ reflects his play on the court as well. Every possession, Russell treats the same and also has the exact same strategy. Shot clock, hell with that. Game clock, hell with that. Score, hell with that. Time in the game, first 6 minutes of the game or last 30 seconds of the game. I'm playing the exact same way. And there's a metaphor for life that I've often used when talking about Westbrook in that, obviously we know you obviously approach the last 2 minutes of a game differently than you approach 9 minutes and 23 seconds left in the second quarter. The game's different. The momentum is different. Guys are locking in more on defense. All of it. We know in your personal life that, we all have this. I talk to my mom differently than I talk to my friends, differently than I talk to my boss, differently than I talk to my professor, differently than I talk to. It doesn't mean we're inauthentic. That's what Russ, the article literally says it verbatim. Russ felt that LeBron was inauthentic. LeBron's a billionaire. And I say that because in order to get to that status, especially as a pro athlete, which is rare. That's LeBron's a billionaire, Jordan, Magic Johnson, I believe, is a billionaire. Like, there's a certain, and people always call it selling out, which I always roll my eyes at, but there's a corporate sensibility that you have to have. You don't walk into a room and, with tech geniuses and with Silicon Valley and all of the billionaires of America the same way you would with your family or with your friends or with, whoever. It doesn't mean that those people are more important than the people close to your life. Matter of fact, it should be the other way around. It doesn't mean that you're selling out or you're not who you are. It means there's a certain way you conduct yourself in order to get the best out of that particular situation. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, again, I ask, would you talk to your grandmother the same way that you talk to your best friend from high school? Of course not. Different relationships, different sensibilities, different everything, environments. LeBron understands that. LeBron has a great business acumen because of that. Jeff Benedict wrote a book. It's called LeBron. I think he wrote it about 3 years ago. I highly recommend it. And something I found really interesting in the book, I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the show before, but I've always found it interesting about LeBron James that the book mentions, is that LeBron, people talk all the time, oh man, he doesn't shoot enough, just put your shoulder down, drive the basket. First of all, that is exhausting to do that over the course of a 48-minute game. Pick your spots to do, especially with LeBron being the oldest player in the league. He's got to pick his spots. But there was a time in LeBron's youth when that was how he went about business. That was how he played the game of basketball. And he was a selfish teammate. Obviously, he was the best you can imagine. A young LeBron James was better than the other kids. And his coach went up to him after it was a game, practice, scrimmage, or whatever. And he sat LeBron down. Keep in mind, this is LeBron James. No siblings, never knew his dad. Mom was going through unbelievably difficult circumstances from a financial standpoint and where they lived. And LeBron had to move all over the place, all of it. And the coach sat LeBron James down and he said something along the lines of, if you pass the ball, not that your teammates will like you, but like you'll develop a stronger chemistry and trust with your teammates. And that psychological impact of a kid without a father, no siblings, no, at least early in life, not any particular close friends, a mom who's battling her own stuff and dealing with they were in a poverty-stricken situation. And a coach tells you, you don't do this, people essentially won't like you. That's what I always say on the show. This is going deeper than I thought, but the experiences we have in our youth, in our childhood, in our early life, they shape us forever. There's always that, there's always little Bryson sitting in there for you, little whoever. There's little LeBron sitting in his head or sitting in his heart that remembers that coach telling him that. That's why LeBron is the passer that he is. That's why LeBron has the IQ, the ability to make guys better around him. That's not to say Russ doesn't necessarily care about teammates. Again, I think Russ is a really good human being. But again, hearing the situation with when Will Smith visited the Lakers, hearing about how Westbrook was just outraged about LeBron barely being into a Malcolm X autobiography and allegedly not finishing the book. First of all, who cares? Second of all, him not knowing a line from The Godfather, him saying Kobe was going to score 70 when the day Kobe scored 81. Westbrook takes every situation too seriously and approaches every single situation with the exact same mindset, with the exact same tenacity. By the way, if you're someone as gifted as Russ, you can get a certain distance with that. LeBron gets the bigger picture. LeBron knows you approach different situations different ways. It doesn't mean you compromise yourself. It doesn't mean you compromise your character. It doesn't mean you are selling out. It means I'm going to adjust to the room that I'm in order to get the best opportunity out of this to make myself better. And so on this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, that's what I took away from this article from The Ringer. It is, on its face, it's kind of a funny read, but deeper than that, I just feel like it's really surprising that people are really anti-West or anti-LeBron with this. My buddy Barry Grant Jr. is in the comments. I expect nothing more from you, Barry. Barry, I can't wait to not be a professional with my take, LOL. By the way, shout out to Barry, who just reached 12,000 subscribers. Congratulations to Barry, good friend of mine for years. He has talked about people that have been on this journey with me from the jump here on Carving It Up. Barry Grant Jr., John Rivera, Alpha Parsar Jr., Ryan Flowers, Mike Guido, I mean, Patrick Brown, just up and down the list. So many, if I didn't mention anybody's name, I apologize. You know who you are. You've been on this journey with me throughout the last 6 years, throughout big portions of it. Before we go to break, and before we talk about what else we got on the list, NFL leaderboard, is that what we got next? I think so. Sorry, there's so much to discuss today. Yeah, NFL leaderboard, NFL MVP leaderboard, and then NBA predictions at the end of the show. Before we do that, couple of quick carving it up moments before we go to break. So first of all, this was from June 17th, 2022. It is one of, if not my favorite shows I've ever done. Again, we're going to have the audio turned off, but this was when the Golden State Warriors, my beloved Warriors, had just won the finals, and I was just beside myself excited. And that was the aforementioned Barry Grant Jr., who had to come on the show, and he was hiding. He didn't want to be in the show. And this is Robin Schreiber, the Dance Cam mom that you see often at Oracle Arena at the Chase Center. She got really famous because she does these crazy, wacky dances on the Jumbotron. Had her on the show about a month after the Warriors won. Delightful lady. Had a blast, having her on the show. Maybe have her on in the future if the Warriors continue to have postseason success, hopefully. But it was a great summer. Great with the Warriors winning. And as we send you guys to break, I guess this is a good one to do. Do we have it? Yes, we do. Okay. The moment that I decided, after years of being a Cowboys fan and then ditching the franchise, still supporting Dak, because Dak's been my guy since he was playing college football at Mississippi State, I said I'm going to support Dak. I can't in good conscience with this owner not caring about winning the way he does not care about winning unless he gets the credit, as we all know. I can't support the Cowboys. And eventually, over time, I got to choose a team. And so I chose my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, and this is from, I think it was July 31st, 2023, when I made that decision. Take a break, or take a look, and then we'll go to break. This kept me awake at night. Honest to God, I'd be up late at night, early in the morning, I don't know what to do with this decision. But after a while, I thought about it, I prayed about it, I talked to loved ones about it, and I have made my decision. The team that I have chosen to be a lifelong fan of, through sickness and through health, no matter what happens, is the 6-time Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. Pittsburgh is the team I've chosen. I see my man John's in the comments here on Instagram. He's got the black and yellow. He guessed it initially. It is Pittsburgh. I chose Pittsburgh over San Francisco. By the way, I got the hat here. Got a terrible towel as well. Decided might as well, bring out the terrible towel. I can't really get the appropriate torque to spin. There we go. Got the terrible towel back here. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Yeah, that was I genuinely did from January to July, excuse me, thought about a number of teams to be a fan of. And I'll be honest, listen, for all my critiques and criticisms and frustrations with how the Steelers run their operation, there's no question, generally, especially relative to some other franchises like the dang Jets and the Browns, they've been a well-run team. I just wish that they would hold their said standard a little bit higher than they do than just, hey, let's make sure we don't have more losses than wins. And that's basically the benchmark. That's the goal. That's my main thing. All right. Let's go to a segment. This is going to be something that I try to do moving forward. So obviously each week or every Wednesday to be specific, I do Bryson's best 10. I rate my top 10 teams in the NFL. Got a great list coming out tomorrow. But moving forward, I don't know if we'll do it every week, if we'll do it every other week. Maybe that's more realistic just because the NFL is such an ebb and flow type of season. No one knows for certain. There is no clear front runner on who the MVP is. It's very tight. And just thinking about it, like all of these names, Mahomes and Baker and I think Christian McCaffrey should be the MVP race. You'll see him on this list, and Dak and all these guys. Drake May. There's so many MVP contenders. What should it look like? I know Vegas has got their odds, but Vegas, that's in the future. That's what they project the who the MVP will be, how the MVP standings will look. But in the here and now, this is how I think the MVP race should look. So let's go and get the background music. Here we go. Okay, so we will start at number 10. The number 10 player on Bryson's MVP leaderboard is Bijan Robinson, running back from the Atlanta Falcons. Bijan is at number 10 on Bryson's MVP ladder. Here's why. So, listen, didn't have his best game against the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday. Clearly, San Francisco was ganged up to make sure they stop him. Don't let Bijan go off the way that the Buffalo Bills and too many other teams have done. This is a guy who, listen, Atlanta's got a very talented offense. They've got Drake London, and Kyle Pitts occasionally shows his ability. And I do believe in Michael Penix as a talent. This guy's the lifeblood. This guy is everything to stock his offense. Catching the ball in the backfield, running between the tackles. He's crazy fast, so run through you. He is a type of guy that can potentially lead the NFL this season in terms of yards from scrimmage. Right now, that's Christian McCaffrey, his friend who he played last night or on Sunday Night Football. But this kid's an unbelievable talent. I think he's number 10 on Bryson's MVP leaderboard. At number 9, a guy that I used to be a skeptic of. Now I'm a full-blown believer in, because why wouldn't you be based on what he's shown you? At number 9, it is Jalen Hurts, quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, number 9 in Bryson's MVP ladder. Before I tell you why, and hand to the almighty, I promise this is not why I put Jalen on this list. I'll tell you exactly why I do. But big shout out to Pamela Hurts, who commented on a recent TikTok that I did talking about Jalen, talking about how the haters are going after him. The full video's on YouTube. The short clip is on YouTube and all social media platforms. Feel free to check it out. But Pamela Hurts, chimes in and she says, "Let them," basically saying, people who go after her son, let him, because he's just going to keep proving them wrong. So big shout out to Pamela Hurts. Big fan of your son. Thank you very much for supporting the show. Big shout out to the entire Hurts family. Class act, great people. And of course, Mama's going to defend her son. So shout out to her for that. And shout out to her for giving love to the show. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Back to our regular scheduled program. Let's talk about Jalen. So Jalen this year, you're talking about a guy who, last couple of years, if you go back from week 6 last year on to today, games that he has started and finished, including the postseason, he's lost twice. He's lost 2 games. That was a 2-game losing streak this year, to the Denver Broncos and to the New York Giants. And in a situation against the Minnesota Vikings, off of Brian Flores, top 5 pass defense, Saquon Barkley gets shut down. Saquon Barkley has been getting shut down. Jalen Hurts was nothing short of sensational. Show you the numbers. 3 pass touchdowns, no INTs, 82% completion, 326 passing yards, literally a perfect pass rating. Could not have done better than he did. 158.3 QBR, 0 to 100 of 95. And again, as I said yesterday, I put -10 rushing yards for the simple fact that this guy is not just the beneficiary of the tush push. This year, folks, he is a 16-1 total touchdown to interception ratio. 1 pick on the year, so he's efficient, doesn't put the ball in harm's way, was asked to throw it a number of times against Minnesota. Deep ball's working. It's been working really since that Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, given that Philadelphia has some defensive struggles, Philadelphia has some concerns at offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. They have a, at times, disgruntled receiver in A.J. Brown. Saquon Barkley's been a shell of himself this year. The offensive line hasn't been as good as it was last year, and they're 5-2 because Jalen Hurts has put them in position to be that with his playmaking, with his arm, with his legs. Did it against the Cowboys. Did it with 1 big throw against the Chiefs. Did it in the 19-point comeback to beat a great Rams team. Did it on Sunday against an awesome Vikings defense with an amazing Vikings defensive coordinator. Can't tell you I'm impressed by him with Jalen. He's at number 9. Number 8, man, credit where it's due. The guy's been unbelievable. Drake freaking May, quarterback from the New England Patriots. Drake May, number 8 on Bryson's MVP ladder. Here's why. So, listen, this is a guy who is in the midst of a streak of 6 straight games has Drake May had, or 5 straight games. No, it's 6. 6 straight games with a passer rating over 100. That's remarkable. Drake May became the first Patriots quarterback, and I'm sure you can think of some other Patriots quarterbacks off the top of your head, to have over 200 yards passing, to have multiple touchdowns, and a completion percentage over 90%. No Patriots quarterback has ever done that. Not even the greatest who ever did it, Tom Brady. That's what Drake May's doing. The deep ball's working. His mobility, he had over 60 yards rushing. He can move quite well. Can Drake May? He's been the lifeblood of this offense. Listen, getting Josh McDaniels in there, getting Stephon Diggs, upgrading the receivers. Booty's a good wide receiver too. This kid is unbelievable. He's showing potentially maybe not Jaden Daniels, not Caleb Williams, or not Bo Nix. This guy, Drake May, might very well be the best quarterback from the 2024 class. He's been unbelievable. He's at number 8. Number 7 is a guy that I talked with Pierce DeLuna. Shout out to him, the First and Tuna podcast. Check it out. He came on the show a couple weeks ago. Big Time Rams guy, Big Time Rams podcast. He said, put this guy on your MVP list, and I will. Number 7, Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford is at number 7 on Bryson's MVP ladder. I think, again, I've said it a million times. I've said it since week 2. If you told me that this guy had if I didn't know any better, if you told me that this guy had a preseason shoulder injury, would not have believed you. Would not have believed you. And he's been utterly sensational. 5 touchdown passes against an excellent Jaguars defense on Sunday, which was, by the way, the most touchdown passes ever in an international contest did Matthew Stafford put together. This guy is unbelievably accurate. Throws from all the crazy arm angles that we sometimes see from Mahomes and Josh. This guy's got all the tools to the kit, keys to the puzzle. The guy's been at pieces of the puzzle, rather. The guy's been unbelievable. Rams are at 5-2. No Puka Nacua, and he's been great. Number 6, from the Indianapolis Colts, maybe the best running back in football today, it is Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, number 6, excuse me, on this list. Most games this year with 3 touchdowns rushing. The guy's been untackleable, if that's even a word in the English dictionary. The guy is shifty. Once again, in the open field, it is off to the races. It is off to the house. He can run between the tackles. He is capable of catching the ball in the backfield. We're going to give his teammate love in just a second. He's on this list as well. And the Colts obviously have a loaded offense with guys like Tyler Warren and Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman, but this guy is what makes this offense work. This guy is what gives Daniel Jones the opportunity to go play action, to be able to work in short down and distance situations. And again, multiple games, 3 touchdowns rushing. The guy is absolutely in the MVP race. And again, his teammate, Colts quarterback Daniel Jones, is at number 5 in this list. Daniel Jones, who'd have seen this coming? Screw that. We're in late October, and Daniel Jones is in the MVP discussion. Unbelievable stuff. Listen, he's led the Colts to the best record in football. He's got 15 touchdowns in the year. It's not like he's playing this conservative sort of game manager, Jimmy Garoppolo type of role. No, he's airing it out. Shane Steichen can trust him to let it rip down the field. He's been effective with his legs, all of it. And he's led the Colts into being one of the better offenses that we've seen quite literally in recent NFL history. This is a graphic I showed on Monday, and I'll show it again. All right, most points per drive in the 21st century. The 2018 Chiefs, Mahomes, Tyreek, Kelsey, they were pretty good, right? 3.08 points per drive, 21st century. Second place, the 07 Patriots. Remember that team? Tom Brady, Randy Moss? Yeah, they were pretty good. They didn't lose a game until the Super Bowl. 3.14 points per drive. The 2025 Colts score 3.46 points per drive. That's the most ever in the 21st century. This is an unstoppable group. We can give Steichen credit, and we should. The O-line, the receivers, and Jonathan Taylor, and we should. This guy has made it work. This guy is, the accuracy's back. The Danny Dimes nickname, that moniker is a real thing in 2025. Daniel Jones, number 5 on Bryson's MVP ladder. Number 4, not getting enough buzz as far as I'm concerned. Christian McCaffrey, running back for the San Francisco 49ers. Listen, Christian McCaffrey this year leads the NFL in touches and in yards from scrimmage. We know he has an injury history. Speaking of injuries, has that not defined the 49ers this year? Brock Purdy, Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. Now they just lost Bryce Up. This team's falling apart. And they're 5-2. Now, Kyle Shanahan deserves a lot of that credit as well, winning with Mac Jones. But this guy has been, for you to be a player that with all of these injuries, George Kittle, by the way, has also been out. For you to be a player that each and every week, every single defensive coach knows, got to stop that guy, got to stop 23, and they can't. Now, is there an overload of touches on the part of Kyle Shanahan to Christian McCaffrey? Maybe. Is it sustainable? Knock on wood, with his injury history, I hope Christian is going to be healthy over the course of this year because he's been great. He's been phenomenal. He has been the lifeblood of that 49ers offense. He's able to bail out Mac Jones and the limitations at receiver. And at times, some of the injuries to the offensive line, he's been sensational. Listen, the last healthy season he had, he was the offensive player of the year. Let's give him some love for some MVP consideration. Come on. Christian McCaffrey, 4th on my Bryson's MVP ladder. At number 3, I'll be honest, he was at number 1. He was going to be at number 1 coming into the week, and then last night happened, so he had to slip a little bit. It is Baker, touchdown maker, Mayfield, quarterback, obviously, of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So look, Baker this year, prior to last night's game, led the NFL in touchdown to interception ratio. He only had one. Obviously, he had the pick that really should not have been a pick in the first half against Detroit. Was airmailing guys, was throwing some hospital balls, just didn't look comfortable. 0 for 8 on 20-plus yard passes. But other than that, you're talking about somebody that has dealt with the injuries of Mike Evans, of Emeka Egbuka, of Chris Godwin, of injuries to the offensive line, injuries to Bucky Irving. The defense isn't that great. And the Bucs sit here today, 5-2, and 4 of their 5 wins come on game-winning drives. He's been clutch. He has been poised and composed, making plays with his arm, and the case of last week against the Niners, with his legs on 3rd and long. He's playing the best football of his life, including at Oklahoma when he was the Heisman Trophy winner back in 2017. Baker's comeback story is something to really admire and appreciate, and he's been absolutely fantastic this year. Last night didn't kill his MVP chances. There's a long way to go. He just has to fall fair is fair just a little bit. Baker is at number 3. Number 2 is a guy who, as we sit today, Vegas has in 9th place in MVP odds. And again, I know this is projection of the course of the season. Still, way too freaking low. Bet that way, Cam. That's great value. At number 2 on this list, it's my guy, Rain Dakota Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Y'all know him as Dak Prescott. He's number 2 on Bryson's MVP ladder. Listen, you're talking about a guy who in the last 4 weeks, let's show Dak's numbers. He's literally played perfect quarterback. 14 total touchdowns, no picks, 71% completion, 270 pass yards a game, 128 rating, 91.2 QBR, 0 to 100. That's not just great, that's Hall of Fame great. Again, show the graphic that I showed yesterday. 3 touchdown passes without a pick in 4 consecutive games. Those are the guys that did it. Those that are listening to the show, I'll tell you who they are. Tom Brady in 2007 won the MVP. Peyton Manning between 2013 and 14 won the MVP. Aaron Rodgers in 2014 won the MVP. Russell Wilson in 2015, again, that was when Russell was still a great player. He may have a future in Canton. Who knows? Drew Brees, 2019. Dak Prescott, 2025. 3 straight touchdowns without a pick, 4 straight games. Only those 5 of the guys have done it. 4 are shoo-ins for Canton, 1 Russ. We'll see. So he's playing Hall of Fame level football right now with an offensive line, Dallas, that is 30th in the NFL in pass protection. So Dak is under duress virtually every snap. CeeDee Lamb has been out of the lineup half the Cowboys season. Right? The run game in some cases against Carolina, hit or miss. The defense has been god-awful. And here, if the chaos in Dallas is always there. Micah Parsons was traded and Jerry Jones is making moves that make no sense. What's new? And here's Dak Prescott with all the changes, all the chaos in Dallas, all the injuries, playing the best football of his life. And by the way, that's saying something because 2 years ago, he finished in 2nd, silver medalist for MVP to Lamar Jackson when he had 36 touchdowns and 4 picks. He's on pace for a far better season than even that. Dak is absolutely number 2 for MVP. Number 1, the guy's been on an absolute freaking heater as of late. The best quarterback in the league, and guys, let's keep it a buck. We all know the best player in the league. It is one Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes leads my MVP ladder right now. Again, similar to Dak, although in this case, obviously the Chiefs have a better record than Dallas. But start the season. You know Rashee Rice is out. And then game 1, first try of the game, Xavier Worthy, bam! Shoulder to shoulder against Travis Kelce, gone for the next few weeks. Since Xavier Worthy has come back, the Kansas City Chiefs, who people question their offensive identity, and is Mahomes really that good? And all of these things. And the Chiefs offense wasn't that great last year because they were hurt. And it wasn't that good in 2023 because they led the league in drops. Patrick Mahomes, by the way, went to back-to-back Super Bowls in that span, won the Super Bowl in 2023, won Super Bowl MVP. All of those things you have to take into consideration. And now that he's got the group, now that he's got Worthy, Rice, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kelce, Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, a fixed offensive line. He's been unbelievable. The Kansas City Chiefs have yet to score less than 30 in those 4-game stretch. And of course, when you're talking about a 2-time league MVP, 3-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time MVP, and the best quarterback we've ever seen outside of Tom Brady, of course, he's going to be the front runner for the most valuable player award. Patrick Mahomes leads this week's list. Bryson's MVP ladder. This is probably just something we'll do every couple of weeks or so. I'm hoping we have, if we don't have the list, that's fine. We can just show graphic by graphic who I had. So Bryson's MVP ladder will go 10 to 1. So number 10, Bijan Robinson. Number 9, friend of the show, or at least his mother is a friend of the show, Jalen Hurts. Number 8, Drake May. Number 7, Matthew Stafford. Number 6, Jonathan Taylor. Number 5, his teammate, Daniel Jones. Number 4, Christian McCaffrey. Number 3, Baker Mayfield. Number 2, Dak Prescott. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. Before we get out of here, a couple of orders of business. Let's show our last moment because this involves a little bit of a story afterwards. Because we're showing some of my favorite moments from Carving It Up history. And I appreciate everybody for tuning into the special Tuesday night episode, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific time. Now I guess we're at 9 Eastern and 6 Pacific, regardless. Showing some of my favorite moments from the last 6 years of Carving It Up. So this moment really became the birth of like a character on the show called Cheesehead Ozzy. That name has actually come up by my good friend Grady Edwards. Shout out to Grady. He's also been a good friend of mine over the course of this show's existence. And what's funny is this is before I was a Steelers fan. So I was still, again, I still pull for the Cowboys swim because I pull for Dak. Anytime Dak's on the line, up the heck with the Cowboys. But of course, Dak was playing 2022. They went to Lambeau Field to take on a Packers team that had lost 5 in a row. Now, as some of you out there know, my sister is a Packers fan. And so we had a bet for this game because I'm the Dak guy. She's the Packers fan about, that if the Packers did beat Dallas, and I thought that was pretty darn unlikely based on how the Green Bay had been playing, that I would have to wear a cheesehead, not just on one show, but all freaking week on Carving It Up Live. Well, as some might remember, the Packers won that game. We're down 14 the fourth quarter, came back, tied it, won in overtime on a Mason Crosby field goal. Aaron Rodgers continued his just ownership of the Dallas Cowboys. And this was the result the next evening, on Carving It Up back in November of 2022. If you listen closely, you can hear my sister laughing her butt off at me, and you understand why when you see the clip. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Carving It Up Live. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're also on Twitter. I have a very unconventional look for the show today. You may be wondering why I have a block of foam dairy on my head. It's because I lost a bet to a Packer fan who happens to be sitting right in front of me. Yeah, that was rough. And again, I didn't have to wear that cheesehead for that segment. I didn't have to wear that cheesehead for that show. I had to wear it all bleeping week. And by the way, that was my stupid idea. She didn't even propose that. I said, I will wear it all week on my show. And gosh darn, if I didn't have to wear that stupid, really uncomfortable. I don't know how you Packers fans do it. That thing is uncomfortable as whiz. Listen, again, like I said, phone dairy. Like it's with my hair is like kind of itching my forehead. It was terrible. I don't know why I'll wear it. Either way. Part of the reason I show that is A, it's a funny moment. B, it was a, excuse me, is the introduction of a character that comes out from time to time during Packer games called Cheesehead Ozzy, in which Cheesehead isn't in here, but I wear the cheesehead, I wear these shades, and it's kind of like this funny thing. Again, Grady came up with the name. But I also say that to say, before we get into our final topic, that this show was never my idea. The concepts of it, the idea to do a podcast at all, the name of it, none of it was my idea. Never. Obviously, I've grown up most of my life as a sports fan. I've always loved to talk about sports. I've loved to debate sports, loved to watch sports. As a little kid, I played sports, played baseball and soccer and basketball. But I'll never forget where we were. We were driving around one day around town. I would say this was late September, early October of 2019. Probably late September. And I don't even know. I was complaining about something. That, 16-year-olds complain about. I don't even remember what it was about. And my dad interjects and he says kind of not flip, like a mix of flippantly and also matter of fact, if that makes sense. He says, well, why don't you start a podcast? And that was like never even a thought that had ever occurred to my head. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Well, why not? So I do the research, get the mic, get the equipment, get the necessary. Again, the show did not go on YouTube until January of 2021. So for the first, do the math, 15 months, this show was audio only. So getting an app called Audacity and doing all those things. Well, obviously, when you're going to have a show, you got to have a name to the show. Well, that came from the person I just lost a bet to in that video we just showed, my sister, who suggested Carving It Up. I'm like, oh, it's great. My name's Bryson Carver, carving it up. I'm carving up the topics. Okay, it's great. So carving it up is stuck. So that was her idea. Name the podcast, Dad's idea. Name of the podcast, sister's idea. And as far as the format, the structure, ideas for certain segments, certain things that I should introduce to the podcast, that's my mom's idea. I always say, or I say oftentimes whenever I do a segment every Friday called The Vol View, which is, I'm a diehard Tennessee fan, as you can see by the basketball and the 2 football helmets. That was her idea. She said, you love Tennessee. You don't really talk Tennessee sports on there much. And I'm like, well, yeah, but Tennessee isn't always necessarily like the topic of conversation on my show. She's like, well, why don't you give it like one segment a week? Like it's like a niche segment. People might kind of gravitate toward that. And by the way, even the name of that segment was not my original idea. It was close. I was going to do the volunteer viewpoint. That was going to be what it was called. She said, no, it's a mouthful. No, Vol View. Just rolls off the tongue. Vol View. And that stuck. It's a great idea. Great name. And again, just different ideas, different concepts and ideas that I've had for this show have come from her. So idea to do the show at all, Dad. Idea to go with the name of carving it up, sister. Ideas for concepts of the show, mother. So to the 3 of you watching, listening, y'all know what it is. Y'all know how I feel about you. Y'all know how much I love you guys. And this has been, I can't believe how fast 6 years has gone by. It has been crazy. It's flown by. And so quickly before we get out of here, I didn't want to give my NBA predictions. This won't be too long because we're going to get out of here because the Warriors playing 30 minutes. I ain't missing that game. So as far as MVP, I think the way it's going to play out is the man who is indisputably the best player in basketball, Nikola Jokic, is going to have yet another MVP caliber season, in large part because I think Denver this year is freaking terrifying based on some of their offseason acquisitions. Bringing back Bruce Brown, getting Cam Johnson. Like this team is legit this year. And they were beat up, fired their coach, and were a game away from the Western Conference Finals. Almost beat the eventual champion Thunder to do so. And that's with Jokic not even having the best series start to finish. So I think Jokic is going to have an MVP caliber year. With that being said, and it's not fair. It's plagued Michael Jordan. It's plagued LeBron James. It's plagued a number of some of the all-time legends in the history of the sport, is voter fatigue. It's not fair. Tom Brady having 3 MVPs is a joke. It is, what are we doing? How does LeBron James go from, LeBron's prime goes from 2007 to 2020. You mean to tell me that from 2014 to 2020, he doesn't win a single MVP? Really? Really? He's done winning MVPs by year 10? Come on. He's done winning MVPs before he turns 30? Well, Jordan, same thing. It was a couple, he got robbed of an MVP by Karl Malone, like by Barkley in one case. So we've seen it happen throughout NBA history. And unfortunately, it's not fair. It's going to plague Jokic. Part of that because so much of this award is about stories, is about narratives. Obviously, it's about your play, but Westbrook, the triple-double, and KD had left, and there was the narrative, there was the story. With Giannis in 2020, it was, he's definitely Defensive Player of the Year. He's in that MVP race. And LeBron, it's an argument LeBron should be MVP, but gosh, if we give it to Giannis, first guy since Hakeem Olajuwon to win DPOY and MVP, it's always been a narrative-driven award. What better narrative than a guy who was, to the shock of literally every basketball fan on the face of this earth, traded out of the blue, out of nowhere, mid-season, from an organization that he had just taken to a finals the year prior, had gone to another Western Conference Finals 2 years before that with a roster that wasn't particularly good because, he doesn't care about basketball. He's fat. He's out of shape. He drinks beer too much. By the way, all things, he cares about basketball, but he probably did drink a little too much. He certainly ate too much. He was not in good shape. And he still got to the multiple Western Conference Finals and NBA Finals and multiple MVP finishes. So clearly didn't hurt him that much. And he was great in the playoffs. Talking obviously about Luka Doncic being traded by the Dallas Mavericks. So that obviously is on Luka's side. But now, Lakers come in, first full season with the Lakers. He's lost weight. He's in shape. Skinny Luka. Skinny Luka was like a big hashtag in the summer. He's on Men's Health magazine. And LeBron's going to miss the first month of the season with an injury. It's your show now. Lake show is the Luka show now. That's your MVP. He's never won before. He's going to win his very first MVP with Luka Doncic. So I think he's going to average somewhere around 33-ish points per game, give it about 8 rebounds, 8 assists. I think he is out for blood. I think he is out to certainly prove to the Mavericks and Nico Harrison and the entire organization, like, what the F were you doing trading me after all I did for your franchise? Luka's going to be your MVP. I'm not going to go through my whole playoff prediction, first round, all that. Final four. Who the final four teams in? This is who I think will be in the Eastern Conference Finals. I really like the new logo of the team on the left, by the way. The Orlando Magic and the New York Knicks. I think Orlando's additions of Desmond Bane was huge. Being able to be a team that was excellent defensively a year ago. Paolo Banchero just keeps taking step after step after step into being a legitimate NBA star. And I think they're pretty well coached with Jamal Mosley. The New York Knicks, 2 wins away from the NBA Finals, closest that they have been in a quarter century. Jalen Brunson, arguably, I guess after Tyrese Halliburton, but Halliburton's not healthy this year, the clutchest player in basketball. You've got Karl Anthony Towns, you've got OG Anunoby, you've got all of these guys. But the problem that continued to plague this team was Tibbs, Tom Thibodeau, as good of a coach as he was, he did not believe in using a bench, and that will plague you every single time in the playoffs when guys, it's a war of attrition. Guys just run out of gas. It's that simple. We're all human. Well, now Mike Brown, flawed coach, he'll use a bench. Talent's there. He's got to the playoffs with the darn Sacramento Kings. And when it's all said and done, for the first time since 1999, the New York Knicks are going to the NBA Finals. The first time, so that'll be Finals in 2026. That'll be 27 years. First time in that span that the Knicks will have gone to the Finals. I think they will do it over the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference Finals. In the Western Conference Finals, this is where it gets tricky because the East is, with the injuries to Halliburton and Tatum, and we're not sure where Giannis is going to end up, and the Bucs aren't even that good with Giannis. East is as weak as it's ever been. The West is a bleeping monster. You've got the defending champion Oklahoma City. You've got the team they're playing right now, the Houston Rockets, and the additions they made, but they lost Fred VanVleet. That kind of is what took them out of it for me. They need Fred VanVleet. He's not going to be there. And then you've got teams like Golden State with some of the additions they made, my beloved Warriors. Denver made a number of additions this offseason. The Lakers, LeBron, Luka, first full season together. Luka's in shape. JJ Redick, smart coach, second year there. How's it all going to pan out? A number of contenders in the Western Conference. Minnesota, by the way, been to back-to-back Western Conference Finals. This, or I guess next, technically this season's Western Conference Finals will feature these two teams. My Golden State Warriors and the Denver Nuggets. Oklahoma City is fantastic. Let's not forget, though, again, I get it. They won 68 games. SGA was league MVP. Let's not forget that they faced 2 Game 7s. So twice in the postseason, one loss would have ended their championship hopes. That doesn't take credit away from their ring. It's to say they weren't as dominant as people give them credit for. So now you've got a situation with Golden State, with a Steph Curry, who in the second half of last year, really ever since the Warriors acquired Jimmy Butler, was averaging nearly 30 points per game. Looked like the old Steph. Because, what a shocker, when you've got a legit second option, Jimmy Butler, so teams aren't triple teaming Steph, he can cook you in fish grease. And you've got Draymond Green, still a top 5 defender on planet Earth. And you've been able to add guys like Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton. And he's not on the team now because of really dumb second apron nonsense. He'll be back in a month. Seth Curry, shooter off the bench. All of these, Jonathan Kuminga brought him back. So the size is there. The athleticism is there. His shooting is there. The championship pedigree is there. For Denver, same situation. Obviously not a dynasty, but they've got the best player in the world. Jamal Murray coming back. Hopefully he's in shape. You traded Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson. That to me is an upgrade. You bring Bruce Brown back. You've got, obviously, oh my gosh, what's my man's name? White boy. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. What is his name? Christian Brown. Bring him back. Denver's deeper than they've been. Adelman did especially under less than ideal circumstances, taking the head coach job with 3 games left in the season last year, did a pretty darn solid job in his, first opportunity there. And coming out of the West in a hard-fought 7-game battle will be the Golden State Warriors led by Steph Curry. So that leads us to an NBA Finals featuring, oh my gosh, the ratings that this will draw. The Warriors with the reigning dynasty, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, against the New York Knicks, looking for their first championship, ladies and gentlemen, in 53 years. Half century. Warriors looking for their 5th championship in the last decade. When it's all said and done, when the rubber meets the road, the champions of the NBA in 2026 will be my Golden State Warriors. And put me on screen. I'll tell you why before we get out of here, because this is an opportunity to send us out on a high note here on the 6-year anniversary of carving it up. I'll sum it up quickly. Think about last year for the Golden State Warriors. Think about a team that was playing 500 basketball all year long. There are reports, sources told me from the Bay Area, if this season keeps going south, if this is yet another year, 3rd in a row, in which the Warriors either miss the playoffs or barely get in with a less than ideal roster because the front office isn't making the necessary moves to put themselves in position to compete, Steph will consider leaving. Steph himself said it in the media before the year. I will be a Warrior as long as we are dead set on competing for championships. Steph was starting to doubt that. I can tell you that. Source in the Bay Area told me he was doubting that. Then they make the move for Jimmy Butler. In the last half of the season, the Warriors with Steph, Draymond, Jimmy. I believe their record was something like 27-8 with those 3 in the starting lineup. Unbelievable basketball. All of a sudden, Steph's out here averaging 30. All of a sudden, Steph is out here, a game that I attended, dropping 56 against the Orlando Magic. He's out here dropping 50, 12, or I think it was 50, 10, and 12 threes against the Memphis Grizzlies late in the season. Getting tripled even against Houston with Jimmy Butler out of the lineup for a game or two. Doesn't matter. Still puts 30 on their heads. And I'm here to tell you right now, if Steph does not blow his hamstring, game 1 against Minnesota, they definitely beat the Timberwolves based on how we saw the rest of that series play out without Steph. And they would have given Oklahoma City, who prior to Jimmy Butler being traded there, the Warriors had beaten 2 out of 3 games in the regular season. And the third game, or the game that they had lost, Steph didn't play. You're telling me they couldn't have given them? Indiana did. Denver did. And neither of them played perfect basketball. You're telling me they couldn't have given Oklahoma City a run for their money in the conference finals? So now this year, for the first time, this is unbelievable. We're in 2025. Steph Curry is, for the first time since 2018, Steph Curry is going to enter a basketball season knowing we can win the championship. You say, well, what about 2021-22 when they did win a championship, their most recent title? Go back and look at Media Day in Golden State. Go back and look at what Draymond Green said when he said, and it kind of pissed off Bob Myers, the GM of the team at the time, future Hall of Famer as far as I'm concerned. He said, yeah, we're going to have to blend young guys and vets, and that's never been done before to win a championship. And there was an element, there's been multiple articles written about the Warriors, multiple pieces over the last 3 years talking about how each game that the Warriors would win in the 2022 playoffs, Steph and Draymond would kind of look at each other in like disbelief, like, how are we doing this? Like, we've won championships, like this team should not be advancing, and here we are. And then Steph has the series of his life against Boston, that game 4 when he drops 43, night in game 6. So for the first time since Kevin Durant walked out that door in 2019, and Steph has talked about this in interviews, the Warriors as a franchise have not been shy about this. We've got a championship team. Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, Al Horford, Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Pajemski, who made a big leap last year, Moses Moody, Gary Payton, Seth Curry, who'll be back, DeAnthony Melton, who was great with the Warriors last year prior to injury. All of these additions and acquisitions and moves to put themselves in position. They've got length, they've got defense. They were the best defense in basketball in terms of defensive rating when they acquired Jimmy Butler. So yes, I absolutely believe. Again, this is all, I clarified this last year, but people apparently didn't think I did. So let's do it again. Knock on wood that Steph is healthy. That's the big one. If this team is healthy, let's not Steph. If the main character, Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, are healthy, the Golden State Warriors will win the 2026 NBA title. I am booking it. As long as those 3 are healthy, that's the big thing. As long as they're healthy, they're going to win the title. This is the best team Steph has had since 2019. and he's won a title since then. There you go. There's an aura, there's a vibe, there's a feel that I get from this team that I haven't felt since KD was there. Like, oh yeah, we can win, we can hoist the trophy. They didn't feel that way going into 2021-22. I can attest to that. They did not. They do this year. So with that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live, our regularly scheduled programming tomorrow night, or I should say same time because we started at 8 tonight. 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Facebook, and on Instagram. Check out my show anywhere you get your podcast. Check out the Grid Network. Subscribe to that. Subscribe to my show. You see all my social media platforms down there. Instagram and TikTok at Carving Up Podcast, X at Carving Up Pod. Check out subscribe to the Grid Network. Subscribe to Carving It Up. I had a blast, you guys, tonight. Thanks for chiming in the comment section. Thanks for tuning in throughout the show. Thank you for supporting this podcast over the last 6 years. Hopefully, we can continue to put out great content for you guys. The show wouldn't happen without y'all watching, without y'all tuning in, without y'all engaging the way that you have. So here's another 6 years and beyond. Have a great evening, everybody. We'll see y'all tomorrow night. God bless y'all. Peace out. And here's to 6 years. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.